Well, let's hear more about that summit. Sherwin Bryce-Pease joins us now from New York, where he is interviewing the minister in the presidency, Jackson Mthembu. Sherwin, over to you. And I must say, Greta Thunberg really giving me goosebumps just watching that very passionate plea she made earlier on.
Well, I've been here a while, and I'll tell you this, I've never seen member states get a lecture like that, no less, from a 16-year-old. She really has been a powerful voice in terms of her strikes on Friday. I mean, this is someone that sat outside the Swedish parliament in Stockholm for months upon end by herself, that really began this movement that we saw days earlier ahead of the Climate Action Summit, see hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people take to the streets around the world. So it's amazing what 16-year-olds can do today. And my guest is a little older than that. It's a warm welcome to our UN studio here in New York by the Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mthembu, part, of course, of South Africa's delegation to the UN General Assembly's 74th session. Minister, warm welcome to New York.
Thank you.
And some important issues on the agenda, which we'll get to. Let's just talk a little bit about the decision of President Ramaphosa not to come here. I can tell you his presence is being missed. Ministers, as important as they might be, are being relegated to very low speaking slots in the various meetings. Heads of state tend to dominate in terms of protocol here. Was it the correct decision for President Ramaphosa not to come here, given the fact that South Africa is taking over the presidency of the UN Security Council next month, given the fact that South Africa will be taking over the chairmanship of the African Union? Was it a wise decision, despite what's going on back home, for him not to be here this year?
You'll know that we have a crisis at home. We have women who are being killed every day. And the community, South African community, particularly women, all of them are saying, can we stop these killings? That's one. But two, you also know that we have had violent attacks in recent weeks that have killed about 10 South Africans and 2 foreign nationals in our country. Again, looted shops of foreign nationals, including burning shops of South Africans. So it is a crisis. From where we are seated, it was important for the president to be with the nation in addressing this crisis. He is now, as you will know, in terms of addressing the violent attacks on foreign nationals, he has requested former president of Tanzania, Kikwete, and former president of Mozambique, Chisano. Now he needed time to speak to those presidents and what their terms of reference are. And so that they start their work immediately, and we get out of this terrible situation where we are in now, attacks after attacks, not only on foreigners, but also on South Africans. We have this wave of criminality that has taken over in our country, and again, the police have done their best, but we need to do more through the commission that the president has instituted. So it was important that he be there and be hands-on on dealing with the issues of killing of women, rape of women in our country. Secondly, the violence that has erupted, that has led to burning of shops and deaths in our country.
There is an argument to be made that presidents have to deal with crises on multiple fronts. Of course, South Africa has a very prominent role now at the United Nations. It's one of 15 members on the UN Security Council. And as I mentioned to you, he will be assuming the AU chairmanship from President Sisi of Egypt, who is here. There's a sense that South Africa's role at the United Nations in this session has been diminished. How do you respond to criticism like that?
No, I wouldn't say that. By the way, we have quite able and capable ministers that are here, led by Minister Pando, that are dealing with all these matters that are quite dear to South Africa, including issues of gender equality. We are also here to deal with other issues of ensuring that we stop the war in the entire world. We are also here to ensure that indeed there is collaboration around education between the African continent and also the African diaspora that are not only here in America but everywhere else in the world, so that they contribute whatever expertise that they might have so that our education system can have outcomes that allow all of us as an African continent and South Africa to have our economies growing and our young people getting employed.
In fairness, though, also, Minister, these are the first time many of your cabinet colleagues, including yourself, have been to a UN General Assembly. It's a monster like no other. I mean, I'm sure you've been to African Union summits. This is quite a different ballgame. It's 193 member states. It's a round robin of meetings. It's like musical chairs in terms of all the events that are going on. Minister Naledi Pandor, this is her first year. Barbara Creasy, this is her first year. William Kize, this is his first year. Jackson Mthembu, it's your first year. Is institutional memory and experience not important at gatherings like this?
It might be our first year, but you'll remember that many of these colleagues that you are speaking to, Zweli, Naledi, Nosiviwe, and also Barbara, they have been in the leadership of the governing party for quite some time. So they are quite familiar with the stance of the ANC on many matters that are before the General Assembly, because we have been in the ANC leadership and we discuss all these matters. Even those that would have attended the past General Assemblies would all have then adhered to the policy positions of the ANC that are well known by all of us as the leadership of the ANC.
One of the areas that was a focus during a presidential visit to UNGA was one day was set aside to deal with economic questions, to meet with investors, to allay fears, particularly during the transition. We saw this last year with President Ramaphosa in town. It was a priority for this presidency. It has now been relegated due to his absence. Why not a focus on the economic area, given that fundamentally South Africa's economy is still struggling?
Well, before we go outside, we should be all on the same page on what are these things that we need to do so as to ignite growth in our economy. You will know that there is a discussion document that is before Cabinet now, and also the governing party, on what are these things that we need to do relative to us igniting our economy. Now, you can't go to the outside world until you are clear in your mind as a country what are these things that you need to do, so that when you have those things in your hands, you can then go to the international community and say, come in, we are open for business. These are the sectors that we would like you to invest in, either mining, manufacturing, tourism, but all of us, first of all, with civil society, with labor, with business, all of us must be on the same wavelength on what it is that we need to do. And that's what we're doing now.
So all South African officials have to be economic diplomats for the country, irrespective of what your portfolio might be. It's all connected. That's the point, right?
That definitely is all connected. In fact, that's what we are discussing now as a country. We are discussing what will be the best approach by all of us in South Africa to ignite and grow our economy. A lot of people, as you will know, we did publicize the document from National Treasury. And a lot of South Africans have made wonderful contributions. And we think something good will come out that will make our economy grow. And when we have such a tight position, a position that is acceptable to everybody on how we move forward in growing our economy, then we can then say, can we invite our external friends throughout the world to come and partner with us in growing our economy.
Minister, let's touch on xenophobia. I understand you've just come from a meeting with members of the African diaspora. It was a meeting about education here at the UN, where you sort of jumped ahead of the curve, if you will, before the questions came flying at you, and raised how South Africa is addressing the xenophobic, or certainly the criminality that we are seeing on the streets of South Africa. What did you say to them, and what was their response?
Well, first of all, we indicated to them that violent attacks on foreign nationals, on fellow African and sisters and brothers is not welcome in South Africa. We condemn it in the strongest terms. But again, we made the point that by the way, is not only attacks on foreign nationals, but it's also attacks on South Africans themselves. We also made the point that out of the 12 people who died in the recent violence, 10 of those were South Africans. Only 2 were foreign nationals. Now, even if it was 1, it's still 1 too many. We are therefore saying to our African brothers and to the diaspora that we condemn any violence, any criminality, immaterial, who perpetrates it. But also, of course, we said that we are not a South Africa that condones such acts. We are a South Africa, as we start in the UN agenda, a decade of Madiba. We are a South Africa that is proud of ensuring that we follow on the footsteps of Madiba and the values that he espoused. We also said to our African brothers and sisters that, by the way, it will not be South Africa that will then take a position that we are going to attack our own brothers and sisters, when in fact it's those brothers and sisters who made a very telling contribution to the freedom that we enjoy today. So this was welcome. But of course, you know, the other steps that we have taken to deal with this matter, the president has asked the former president of Tanzania and yes, to come and lead a commission that will then delve deeper into what are the causes for this type of violent attacks on foreign nationals. So the people here
is that an admission then from the government that this is not just a question of criminality? There might be some deeper root causes to what we are seeing on our streets in South Africa.
Definitely, there might be deeper causes, and some of us, we might have some sense of what those causes are. There have been allegations that there are many people, some who are South African nationals, some who are from our neighboring countries, who are indeed engaged in drug trafficking. That's one thinking. There are also issues that says in some of the sectors of our economy, these sectors like your hospitality industry and your freight and logistic industry and your agriculture industry are in the main employing people that are foreign nationals at the expense of South Africans. But
which is a global phenomenon. It happens in the United States as well.
But even if that were the case, nobody is justified to attack any person in our country. Once you attack somebody violently, you loot their shops and you loot their properties, immaterial who those people are, as long as they are in the country, you are then you are committing crime. And we have dealt with this from that angle. But we need to do more, because we need to delve deeper. What makes South Africa so violent? And all of us must step up to this plate. We are a violent society in South Africa. Last year, the crime statistics said 21,000 people were killed. Those were South Africans. We have got many women that are being killed almost on a daily basis. So we need to deal with this violence that crops up from time to time from our communities.
So a great deal of introspection ahead, Minister. Always good to see you. Thanks for coming to talk to us, and hopefully we'll catch up with you later this week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mthembu, speaking to us here live from our UN studios in New York. Of course, a lot on his plate since he's assumed his role as Minister in the Presidency. He actually told me before we went live that he misses being in Parliament. So, hello, Julius Malema. Back to you guys in Johannesburg.
Thank you very much. That was SABC correspondent Sherwin Bryce-Pease, also leaving with some words. There's been good speaking with you in studio today.
Indeed. Thanks a lot, Shante. And SABC 404 still continues with news at 9 with Flo Ledogo. Do watch that. But from us here, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Good night.
Bye-bye.